All right, at 6:01, we'll go ahead and order the December 3rd. The December 3rd meeting of the Weld RE-5J Board of Education. If you take a moment, please silence your cell phones and rise with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Diagano, would you please call roll?
Monica Johnson is excused. Amanda here. Nate Casano
Here.
Amy Musgrave here. Michael Wales
Here.
Hayden Chambers here. Liam Barak and Annabelle Ruff is excused.
Okay, we do need to approve this evening's agenda. I'd entertain a motion. No changes?
To approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice President Sassano and by Director Proctor to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, we have an agenda. Do we have any citizen comments on agenda items? All righty. Well, let's move into some celebrations. Superintendent Nilsson.
Thanks, President Hills and board members. Obviously, nights like this are awesome in our district. We can celebrate lots and lots of individuals. Before we get into specific celebrations of the individuals who are with us in the room, I do want to just share a couple things with the board. On November 20th, we had a chance to spend some time with our foundation. It continues to do good work and look at ways to support teachers in our district. And that night, the foundation gave out teacher grants for the year. And it was about $21,000 worth of grants that were given out to our teachers. So it was a great night. And again, I just want to give a plug out to our foundation who continues to do good work. I think major fundraiser that the foundation has historically has been the golf tournament. They're working on a casino night that will be sometime in February. I'm not a gambler, but I'm kind of excited about that as a fundraiser, a second fundraiser. It's hard to do a golf fundraiser in February, so a different one. So that's just more information will be coming out from our foundation probably soon, I would imagine. So, but again, a plug for a group of individuals from town who continue to look at ways that they can support our teachers, who ultimately support the opportunities our kids have. So. Some pretty cool things were awarded that night. The other one I just want to talk a little bit about, that board members are aware that we have made it, over the last couple of years, we've worked to develop a superintendent's advisory group at the high school. And that's been going well, and that group had a chance to come and speak to the board. But we also had an intention to create that same type of advisory group at each of our schools. And in the month of November, we had a chance to be at Milliken Intermediate School, Pioneer Ridge, Elwell, and Roosevelt Middle School, each with a different set of students. Two student board members will be present in those. And the desire would be that our student board members are ultimately the ones that do the facilitation. But the first round of the students was awesome. They're great. We sit in those meetings with Assistant Superintendent Kramer, myself, and the principal. And the idea is to hear good things, but also opportunities. Mr. Benson's been part of it since we started. And the cool thing about it is students are totally honest. Give you good, but they'll also talk about things they see that you can improve. And some of it's doable. And so it would take a lot for us to try to figure out, but like at one of the elementaries, we were talking about lunches, and they would like to have crab and lobster served at lunch. That's more challenging than some other things, but we did have fish sticks last week, so close. But it was really awesome, and one of the things I just want to highlight to the board is there were some themes that came out in all the groups. And the one that was overwhelming was how our buildings help our students to feel safe and that they have a place they belong. And the other thing that came up over and over again, even at the elementary level, was all the opportunities for students. And when you think about a school district, that's really the board is set out to push in this district, where right is opportunities, and the students they're identifying those things. For me, I find that they feel like they belong. That's like the bedrock of you can't do anything else if you don't feel like you belong. And so to hear students talk about that was awesome. So I just wanted you to know that that's in the works. It was pretty cool to hear the students also ask, is this going to continue? Can we do this? And I think we heard that at the elementary. And then at the middle school, they were all fired right. When do we get to do this again? So that's pretty special too. So I just wanted you to be aware that we felt like that was a great start, and we'll continue to move forward with that. Yeah.
So let me just add to that, because it's always been my dream and my vision to do like a summit with all the with all the student council, all those kids from all the schools coming together at one time. And I think anytime, and guys probably recognize this when you were at the elementary school levels, anytime the high schoolers or the middle schoolers can interact with the elementary school, or high school with middle school, or middle school with elementary, it's so impactful. I mean, they probably thought you guys were gods. And I know anytime our high students are in those buildings with those elementary school kids, that's a big deal. So keep that back here.
Yeah.
Mind that I would love for us to be able to do something where even this body could get involved with that too.
That sounds festive.
So.
All right, if we move on now, I'd love to start our celebration tonight with a pretty special celebration for an individual. Knowing Chad, he has no desire to be here tonight or have us call him out. But Chad has done something. First of all, I've been here 2.5 years, and I've been around athletic directors for my whole career. Coach in the schools as an assistant super, and now in this district. Chad's the best I've been around. So I'd say that just to start. But Chad was recently recognized by the National Interscholastic Athletic Administration Association, NIAAA.
That's right.
Is that how you reference it? He earned a distinction there as a, is pleased to announce that Chad Walker has been recognized as a certified athletic administrator. To earn the distinction, Mr. Walker had to demonstrate a whole bunch of knowledge about what he does. But he also, so it's thinking about background experience, but also a pretty extensive, comprehensive written exam. And I think one of the things we don't get to see, you get to see Chad everywhere in our district, but one of the things we don't often see is the influence Chad has already as a relatively young high school AD, is the experience and the influence he already has at the state level. And that's because of your experience, Chad. It's because of how you show up. It's because of how you do the work. And I just want to say how we are as a district to have somebody that's gone through this. It's always unique to go through something like you went through. It doesn't come with a stipend. It doesn't come with extra pay. Just you doing this for you. And that's pretty special. And so we just wanted to acknowledge you and the work you do. I think some of what you see here tonight is conditions you've created in that building. Some people say coaches do a lot of work, and coaches are amazing. They create the conditions. But your lead coach in any high school is your athletic director. And so I just want you to know that as a former coach, someone that still thinks of myself coach, the lead coach is the AD. The AD creates the conditions for coaches, and what you've created at Roosevelt High School is special. And so I'd like to say thank you, and I'd love for you to have a chance to be honored by our board as well.
Yeah, I just can't. Go ahead, yeah. I just can't imagine us walking out of here tonight and not having you come up here photo. I think Mr. Benson will be a part of that, and because if anything, just to embarrass you further.
Thank you.
Speech, I like that.
No.
Miss Hall. I would like to call you a young athletic director.
You know what? I made it for my family. I appreciate it.
I don't want to be able to do like 2 rows or something.
Should we stand up on the feet?
I was wondering, two girls, what to do.
There you go.
This way? Where are we going? Hey, where are we at?
There you are. You're good. Are you good?
Feel super tall.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
He also isn't too shabby with the other hats he wears.
That's true.
Can I say something before we move on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like from a student athlete perspective, and I'm sure like you can vouch for me and the team behind me can as well, and anyone that's played a sport at Roosevelt, is like you said, we have something truly special. But honestly, the special thing about Chad is I've never felt more cared for as an athlete in my life than by him. And it doesn't matter if you are varsity, all-state, or C team. Like, he just picked up a ball or football for the first time. Like, he truly cares about athletes. And there are other ADs, like, in our own, like, area that all they care about is trophies and, like, what like, winning. Like, yes, that's part of it. And we have done that at Roosevelt in so many avenues. But, like, he just truly cares about his athletes. He wants to make sure that we get so many opportunities to do this we love. And that's what makes him one of the best ADs. And I'd say Colorado. I think he's the best one, but he's objectively one of the best AD in Colorado.
Thanks, April.
All right. Well, moving on, one of the teams that we have that has been exceptional this year at Roosevelt is our gymnastics team. And I'd love to call up Coach Hufford and to talk about you just a little bit, but doing a little research for me, who's a pretty early in my career superintendent, I'm only a little older in the district than the team is, right? And so reading it to see the push that our family had to help make this a reality. And I have to say, I had a chance to come down to the state tournament and watching the team win and how you show up as gymnasts and team, you would never know that this team has been a Roosevelt Rider gymnastics team for just a few years. It was really impressive to see the team as a team, and gave me, as your superintendent, chills to see you walk in with that silver R on your back. I was there Saturday, so I think you may have had something else on earlier, but that silver R on the back, white, was awesome, and I really appreciate. This is amazing, and to think about what's in front of this team is super cool, and you can be super proud, Coach, of where the team is, and I'm sure you're thinking the same thing as how excited you are about what's in front of our gymnasts. So if you come up and talk a little bit about your season and how it culminated with a second place finish at the state, which is pretty incredible, we'd love to hear a little more.
Perfect. I actually maybe want one of my amazing
That'd be-
seniors to
that'd be-
speak on
that'd
that
be
now.
fantastic.
That's okay.
That's totally fantastic.
Is this where you'd like us, or?
You can come up, just because of the camera, we got the camera, so.
Come on up front.
For watching at home, it's nice to have a face.
Right here.
Yeah, that's fine.
On behalf of our gymnastics team, thank you for inviting us tonight and on our season as state runners-up. 5 years ago, the board behind me approved this gymnastics. You took a chance on a brand new program, and because of that, dozens of athletes have discovered a sport they love, built confidence, and created a community that continues to grow stronger each year. In just 5 seasons, we've gotten from barely qualifying to state to standing on the state podium. Our athletes have shown incredible dedication, resilience, and pride in representing our school. None of this progress would have been possible without the belief in your support, families, and the belief that these girls could build something special from the ground up. Thank you.
Well said. We'd love to have all of our gymnasts work their way around. Board members, can we come out and shake hands, and then we'll take a picture, and it'll be a little harder with everybody than it was with Chad. But we'll make it work, we'll figure it out.
So should like the board stuff like on the,
Do the loop first, shaking hands first, and then we'll come back.
Oh.
Yeah.
We have an idea. The board sits and have the ladies come behind you.
Hayden and Liam are going to also awkwardly stand behind me.
Actually, we have one more chair.
I'll be Monica.
Ladies, we'll sit a little bit more. Alright, here we go. Hold on. Love it. Good. More in there? Good. Yeah, get in there. Come on in. Yes, get those pictures.
Congratulations.
All right, our third celebration tonight, group that's interesting, Coach Hopkins, I don't even know what the right term is for that. Kaiser, create the conditions, and I remember being here before I came on and hearing our FF team talk a little bit about, I think at that time it was meat judging, it blew my mind. And tonight we've got us a group that went to Indiana, and brought back some silver medals. We'd love to have you talk a little bit about what happened, what it looked like to compete in Indiana, and what it entails, right? What your competition entails. You have someone that would come enlighten us? Sure, yeah, please.
So with competition, we have a few different categories. One of them is, of course, judging the kata. We give reasons to explain why we placed the class as it was, as well as judging the class. Another one, we take about, I think it was 3 team tests on 3 categories, and we was given little booklets to see what information we needed and photos that we could see, as well as any information about the cattle. Then the last one is the team practicum, which is a 10-minute presentation. We are given 40 minutes to prepare about a issue within a dairy, and we present this to 2 people, and they are technically the owners of the dairy, and they're asking us to figure out these issues and how we would fix them. All in total, it was a 2-day contest.
Board members, you have questions?
I heard grapevine that the cattle that you guys looked at this year weren't that great, which kind of probably makes it even more challenging, right? You expect at the national convention you're going to see the best, and you probably saw the best of the worst.
What makes that true? How do you know? What is some of the first things you look for?
So the first thing we looked for is the udder quality. We want it to be high attached, that with also being wide and capacious and filled with milk. The udder is 40 points, so that is the thing we judge the hardest. Then we look at structural qualities. You want a straight top line. You want them to be tall. You want them to be sharp, with their hooks sharp down the top and more angular over their hooks to pins, which is the lower back.
They're good.
The hip. And then you also want them wide, but you don't want them conditioned or fat. You want to easily see their rib cage, but not them be weak.
So the ones you saw that weren't great, what jumped out at you?
So the thing was, some had great structure, but they had a bad udder, or they was over-conditioned, or they had a good udder, but they was lacking structural qualities and all of that.
Awesome. There's a lot more than I could do.
What I would say about the judging thing is, I love it, because to me it teaches critical thinking skills in every class. There's 4 problems the kids have to break down and evaluate, and they have to make a logical decision about how we're going to emphasize what's important here, and then they have to give an oral presentation, which, they have to communicate clearly a logical and convincing reason why each one of these placements should be the way that it is. And I think those are skills that they can use in any fast life as they go through their career or even in their personal lives.
So, you guys as a team to do this judging, or is it individually you're each deciding how?
Only the team practicums. The judging is individual based.
I always, and I think you always say this but I'm always so impressed with our FFA students when they come and do what you just did up here. Not a lot of high school students could stand up here and present like that. As clearly about something that none of the rest of us understand at all. So I'm always impressed with your FFA students and how they come here to talk to us. It's always very impressive. Good job.
Well, yeah, and I'm proud for all kinds of reasons. I mean, one, I've said it before, Mark is my nephew. Great things happen in this family. He skipped my generation for some reason, Cole and his. But was it last week, 2 weeks ago, I had a BOCES meeting. And right now, Centennial BOCES has all Weld County schools, plus a couple from Morgan, in the BOCES. So these are all fairly strong FFA schools, or strong ag schools. I don't know that they're really strong FFA schools, but it's so awesome to go as a Roosevelt alumni, which we didn't FFA when I was in school, and be able to brag about our FFA programs in front of Prairie and Pawnee and Sterling and Fort Morgan and Kersey, who back in the day, those were the kings of FFA, and now that title is rightfully ours. Get out of here, Mustang.
I spent a lot of time steers though, with the black hair spray and keeping them out. I know nothing about dairy cattle. We do have quite a bit of dairy cattle out by Fort Morgan, but our school secretary actually has a dairy farm. And our school secretary. I'm partial to Roosevelt now, but I loved my FFA in Fort Morgan. And it served, I can't think of anyone that was in FFA out in Fort Morgan. It didn't succeed. My best friend from kindergarten, I used to help her show steer. We were college roommates, all the things, and she was hardcore into that jacket. Still goes to all the oyster fries. Do you guys, you should look into the oyster fries.
We do pulled pork instead.
Yeah.
I think it's safer. I did oyster fries, and actually Mr. Ditter came over and helped me with that. We
Did he
just lost
really?
Mr. Ditter a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was a huge loss, but a great FFA advisor. He was a good mentor to me first year when I was at Brush, so I appreciate that.
Very good man. I think Benson would enjoy an oyster fry.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to one?
No.
No.
I call the city boys, so.
I knew you had. I mean, I was educated guess right there.
So I have a question for the team. Is it correct that now that you placed at nationals, you can't compete in this particular event again?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So then it's getting broken up after this into new events.
Yep. And we're recruiting for new dairy judges for next year. They're gonna help me. And I told them they can come help coach the new team.
I was gonna say, can they help mentor?
Oh, absolutely. And in
Okay.
fact, I'm just gonna tell you, that's a secret to Roosevelt FFA. Our students see themselves mentors and leaders, and they build the next generation, the next team. And by doing that, it just keeps coming over and over and over. That's the secret. That's it. Those kids.
That's built-in leadership though, and those are conditions you've created, Mr. Hopkins, and your team now, and now we have 3. But those are conditions created over time. And it is interesting when I last year was my first year going to, I think it's the state competition at CSU, is that what? And when you walk in, and Michael talked about, we didn't even have it a few years ago, but you walk in now, and people know where Roosevelt is. It was pretty neat to see the influence the Roosevelt FFA program has at the state level. I mean, and it's because of the adults and then the students carrying on and working hard and doing great work. But the conditions are created, and it's pretty special what's happening at Roosevelt.
Before we shift gears on that though, because you had one student get the FFA national degree?
American FFA degree, yes.
And was that at the national?
Yes, Hallie Bauer got her American degree at the National FFA Convention. It's one of the awards that less 1% of all FFA members ever earn. They have to go ahead and continue on with their SAE, or what we would call work-based learning in a lot of other pathways, for one more year on high school and keep records on that. And actually, Hallie has the intention to become an agriculture teacher and an FFA advisor, so that fits right in with what she's trying to do. So we were certainly very proud of her getting that American degree as well.
Because there's a like a state level, isn't there?
Yes, the state degree, and we have, usually somewhere in the teens of students that will get each year coming from Roosevelt. And then to go ahead and get that American degree, they go another year or 2 longer to get that.
So, and does that come with any schoolship opportunities?
No,
or just some prestige?
It's more of a resume builder and something that, you can kind of put on there as, your achievements. So.
All right, Mark, I'm looking at you, bud.
No pressure.
Make me proud.
But as far as scholarships, I would just tell you, like these young people right here, if wanted to judge at the college level, all they have to do is say, Mr. Hopkins, I want to judge. And I'll pick up the phone and call for these young people that work their tail off, and there will be a college coach calling them relatively quickly. Both of my sons just got done judging, and I'm going to brag a little bit because Brady's team just got done winning the national championship for live judging at Oklahoma State University. So that was pretty neat. So,
yeah. That's great. Well, good job to you guys. Good job, Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you.
You've built such a phenomenal program. So, and it sounds like your students are helping you do that. The secret's out.
Do the three of you know what you'll compete in yet this year? Not yet.
And you're a freshman, right? Or sophomore?
I'm a junior.
Or,
My sister's a sophomore.
oh, okay, that's what I remember from last year, or, I don't know.
They were here in the spring. Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll be a senior.
Maylin's wrestling.
Okay.
Nice.
They just won.
Meet over, Chad, already?
Yes. Awesome.
Let's handshake and.
Yep, let's get some photos.
Wrestling for this?
I think that's the way you do it. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Oh, absolutely.
Sure. No, kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Coach.
Right here. Is that yours?
Yeah.
Well done. All right, ready? Go.
Keep spinning out, keep spinning out.
Yeah.
You said it was only 3 or 4 matches or something.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mr. Benson. That's it for my celebrations.
Okay. Any other celebrations? Well, let's move on to board member reports. Mr. Burak, do you want to start us off?
Since last meeting, I wish Annabelle was here, but myself, Annabelle, and 3 others from FBLA went up to UNC to compete in a business challenge. It's an entrepreneurial challenge. You have to think of a business idea that brings a community together. That was the prompt. So we came up with an AI business app type thing where the app caters events towards you to have your interest met without you having to really do anything but put your interest in, and it caters to what the night is, what the weather is outside. So that was our idea, and we actually ended up getting first place and winning $6,000 in scholarships total. So we got to split that up with 5 people to $1,200 per person. So it was a cool experience. We had the district accountability committee. It's good to be there. I got officially onboarded onto the state youth council. So I'm this me and a kid from Cherry Creek right now are on that, the executive committee for that. So I'm really excited to be on that. We'll see what it looks like. And we had the Weld Youth Committee meeting, talking about work-based learning development in D6, and then also in our own district. But due to some communication issues, I was voluntold to present about what we are doing. So a cool experience. So it was fun to ramble on about our CTE and work-based learning access for probably about 45 minutes. And then it was also a tremendous opportunity to help lead the LL Student Advisory Group, which was awesome to see those kids. They're super enthusiastic, they just want to be involved. And I definitely keep myself in them. When I was their age at Elwell, which was Letford, I was in student council and I was in their shoes, and it was really cool to see what those kids are doing now and how enthusiastic they are about changing stuff, about lunch food and wanting like dessert bars, things that maybe kind of crab and lobster style aren't as possible, but there's also some other great ideas, and it was really good to be there, and I'm really excited about meeting with them again in a couple months, a couple weeks. Oh, must be.
So just like Liam, I ran the student advisory board at MIS, and that was, as Scott detailed, like one of the most amazing experiences I've had so far. Mr. Plaisance told us that he tried to get kids who maybe weren't already in student leadership positions, that weren't in student council, which I liked, just because it was getting a broader perspective. We talked about what they liked about the new school, what they think we could update to cater to more. We talked about the Smart Lab. One of the kids was part of one of the families that got moved back to Milliken, because he was one of the Milliken families that was going to PRE. So it was really cool to get his perspective. And I just want to say, because I have another thing on here that'll tie into this, but I'm just so proud and amazed by the culture that is being formed, and that probably has started for many years, but at MIS, because I didn't go to MIS, I went to PRE. I don't live in Milliken, so frankly, have felt like an outsider the past, the first time I went there, and that was, I think, for the ribbon cutting. But I also helped with KSL for the music club, so I also knew one of my students from there. And just the culture that they have there is so amazing. Like, these kids are getting to explore stuff and foreign passions, and that is just amazing to see. Mr. Plaisance and the rest of the admin and staff members there have done such a great job at just giving kids opportunities to shine. And the PTO, I think I'm saying that right. The PTO put on turkey bingo the Friday before Thanksgiving, and I got to volunteer. And just to see the amount of people was amazing. So I remember going to PTO stuff at PRE, and yes, there was a group of people there, but it did not match what I saw at this turkey bingo event. My the mascot from the Bronco Dub, so everyone went crazy over that. It literally looks like scenes in movies where they have the bingo halls and they're crowded. It was in the gym. It was great. There was a ton of money. I was running food. Everyone was just so nice and polite and very excited to be there. The kids were awesome. I'm just so blown away. I loved that school. Every time I have to go up there for something, I'm just yay. I'm just it's highlight of my day every time I go. So props to them for that. Also, we had a couple students from our performing arts groups get selected to honor groups. In choir, we had, let me see if I can remember names now. Taylor Diener. Sorry, I'm pulling up an email so I can remember. I should have done it. Diener, Landon Geist, Julie Gray, Ryan Me, and Lily Rowe were selected for the Combined Leagues Honor Choir, so props to them. And then we had two band honor groups select our students. Julian Keeling got selected to do CSU band on trumpet, and Julian and Rose Rasky got selected for Combined League Honor Orchestra. So they will be with the orchestra for that concert, which that pool is also very small, because you Combined League Honor Band, which that result is come out next week, but then orchestra only takes a select few, usually friend group, but this year it was different. And so props to them. They're considered some of the elite musicians out of the combined band. So props to them for that. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Awesome.
Let's see. I went to, I think, the Greeley West cheer competition and watched the varsity game day and varsity traditional compete, and they did really well. They had a lot of growth from the last competition I went to earlier in the year, so that was really fun to go watch them compete. They're also, Rosevelle's cheerleading team is massive compared to everybody else. It's amazing that they can get all of those people on the mat and not crash into each other, honestly. Because most teams are like 12, 16 people, and ours is, I don't know, I think it's over 30 that are on the mat at the same time. It's pretty cool to see that. And a lot to see happening as well. I think that's it. That's all I can think of, but I'm excited because tomorrow morning I'm going to MES and read for Knights Club. It's one of my favorite things to do. If anybody's interested, there was quite a few openings. They read weekly on Thursday mornings at MIS and MES. So there was quite a few openings still left for both of those schools, and it's super exciting. I'm going to take my now high schooler with me because she also loves going and reading at MES. You get really fun stories. The kids are great. And Mr. Ross does a great job over there with that program. And I know he always has a para helping him as well. I can never remember her name, and I apologize. But I'm really excited about that. It's one of my favorite things to go do.
And this is the Knights Lab, right?
Night Success Lab.
And
Yeah.
that's the
before care almost.
I don't want to say preschool
It's not.
because that sounds like preschool. But
It's like before care-ish, yeah. So
Yeah.
they have a safe place to go morning.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun. Well, yeah, they only reading on Thursdays, both MIS and MES. I know, and that's only the one day a week.
That's the worst schedule this stuff. Why do I have to have a job?
I know, adulting stinks. The kids should just stay in school, honestly.
Yeah. You guys want this.
Do you
You
know,
want this.
do you know what you're reading?
I don't. Sometimes, so at MES, at Night Success Lab, you get a choice. You can either bring your own books or they have books for you. They kind of like the books that they have there. Sometimes they bring a book from home, but they really like selections there. So I let that surprise me. Sometimes I have no idea what we're reading, most of the time.
It's all warm, isn't it? Awesome. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I did any school related. I had to see a bunch of kids at 12 in the high school. I spent some time there. That doesn't really count. I didn't have to work Thanksgiving this year, so first year in a long time. So spent some time with him. Yeah, my schedule is not conducive to going to go read. That sounds lovely. My daughter would go read at Elwell. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I think you can read Elwell too, honestly. I don't.
I have to check and see if she has in one day, because one is in one day.
Listen, I think if you just say a Hyundai, they'll put you in a classroom with a book.
That would be nice. And my oldest will with me, because she doesn't have class over here. On Mondays. I've been coordinating kitten homes with Michael. It's been that's school board related-ish.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, you're a kitten dealer.
Yeah.
On the side.
Dealer, that sounds.
First one free.
Yeah. Probably do chopped. Yeah, they did do chopped, and she did a sweet potato shepherd's pie.
It's good.
I didn't get to go this year. I did get to go last year, so I missed chopped this year. I heard it was great. You know, Kelly's very dramatic about it. Kelly's dramatic about it. She had a good time. Who won the chocolate competition?
I can't remember, but I don't think it was the right team because it wasn't the one I voted for.
Oh. Yeah, she was calling me, do we have a sweet potato? Yeah, we do. Like, it's Thanksgiving time, so she was in luck. That's it.
All right, thank you. I don't have a report tonight, but I think I comment on this every time we have quite a few celebrations, but it's really cool to hear about what's happening, especially at the high school. I know lots of great things happening in all of our other buildings. But it's really exciting when we come to these meetings and we get to spend the first 45 minutes talking about the great things that are happening in the district.
So that's fine. That's it for me. Okay. Before I say any more, so Liam, I mean, he knocked the Hyatt off the ball with that presentation he gave at the Workforce Development Youth Committee, because we were in pick mode. Greg, myself, and Liam were. I mean, the time the gal from District 6 was talking, we're like checking our phones and like, where is Rebecca? And it turns out that there was a major communication error. Rebecca had no idea she was even supposed to be there. And so the gal from District 6 got done talking about all their programs. And so then Greg looked at me and Liam, and I've been out of it enough to where I'm 2 years behind. And so I just kind of looked at Liam like, hey man, this is your time. And Shiny did. For about almost a good 45 minutes, gave a solid presentation on the whole gamut, work-based learning, the CTE programs, got into a little bit of the concurrent enrollment stuff, and then talked about some of just the special programs that we did, like the seminar where we brought in all the employers and did the resume workshops, and and I'm still getting really good feedback from his presentation. So right place, right time for Mr. Burak. So he did a great job. I don't have a whole lot more to say. I had a BOCES meeting, like I said, I think it was a week ago. Time gets away from me. But kind of dovetailing on what Vice President Sassano said, so we start every BOCES meeting with the opportunity to talk about what's going on in our district. It really is kind of a time to share the highlights. There's times where people will share some of the little things that are going on. It's a good opportunity to offer support to board members across the region, but it really just kind of turns into this brag session. And I realized that I usually try to keep track of, I always write stuff down, and I always go back through my notes, and there was so much that I had just forgot to write down. And so I got a day out, and I thought, oh boy, I need to start asking some people some stuff. So I shot Scott, I shot Brent an email. I think I shot Dave an email, all the principals, and I just got the massive list of stuff. And it's so awesome to be able to just go talk about those things. And I'm talking a little bit about that this evening as everybody was kind of filtering in. We've sat in this boardroom when things have been not so happy, and there's been some tension. And it's, I think it's been a long time since we've done that, because we have so many great things that are happening in the district and so many great things to celebrate. And it's a good thing. And it's definitely a blessing. And we're grateful for all the work that everybody's doing to make these things that we can celebrate and give these opportunities to students, because ultimately that's what we're celebrating, is the achievement of our students. So that will conclude mine. Mr. Nielsen, head over to your report.
Well, thanks, President Wales. It's interesting. We had a board meeting just a couple of weeks ago, but it's only been 4 days of school in between. So it's. But one of the things that happened the day after our last board meeting was I participated in Chopped, and I happened to be in the 1 hour they did the sweet potatoes. And I'm not a sweet potato fan, but every meal made changed my mind on sweet potatoes. There were some amazing sweet potato recipes. The shepherd's pie was awesome. And those are scary for a picky guy like me, but it was really good. And so it was interesting to be a part of. Why are you laughing at me? I'm like judge,
Because I've sat at enough tables now that I'm like, why would they put you in that position? I mean, that had to be like a high anxiety situation for you.
And I ate everything. Not a lot of everything, but I ate everything. But it really was high level this year. So when I think back just on the 3 years I've been here and what's happened in that, I'm going to say the competition, in this case, it is at a much higher level now than it was just a couple of years ago. And that's a testament to though the conditions Heather's created in that space.
Yeah.
The kids love it. They're working hard, but they really did a good job of presenting different options. And there were 5, I think, ingredients they use. And I wouldn't have predicted those would be all together, but they did a masterful job of figuring out what to do with them.
That's great.
We had a chance, Assistant Superintendent Kramer and I, to attend Thanksgiving meal over at Elwell. And that's the first time I've done that in 3 Thanksgivings I've been here, so to participate there and be able to celebrate those that are helping us with lunch, and but then sit with some kindergartners, and yeah, I was a little fish out of water with kindergartners. They needed sort of attention than I had, or skills than I had. It was awesome. But it was really cool to be there for that morning and to just see the excitement around it. And the real neat thing was it happened to be the same day we did advisory group there. And so they talked that morning, part of that group had helped put whipped cream on the pie, and then they were there to serve the pie when we were back for lunch. So we were engaging with students that we had seen in the advisory earlier that morning, which was just a nice connection. So that was a good day. And then the big thing I talk a little bit about this evening is in a one-on-one recently with President Wales, I realized that I had done a poor job of introducing our board to Mr. Dave Scott, who is with us tonight. Dave Scott is our new Director of Special Education, and he's doing a phenomenal job. We were talking with him today about how that happened, and he came on in the summer, and it very, very quickly you become comfortable with the way Dave shows up and how Dave does his work. We're hearing the same from parents and parent meetings that he's sitting in. Is he just has a great way about how he does his work, and so you think everybody knows Dave, right? So that's my bad, and I appreciate you pushing me on that. But I also want to talk a little bit. I felt like the right time to share with you, and I don't know, can we share that one slide? Dave has put together some numbers in his time. We have talked about, as a board, we've talked about the growth of the district. But we haven't had numbers, I haven't in my tenure here, haven't known exactly how the growth of special ed equates with the growth of our district. And so Dave has taken some time, and as he's come on board to figure out how to look. And the graph or the spreadsheet he'll show we'll show in a second shows that since 2020. So if you just think that's 5 years, and really that's Karen's 2 years and my 3. In that time, our special ed number of students has gone up by 40%. And our general population, I can't remember, it was about 13%, 14, something like that. So it's astonishing, the growth. And Tabitha would talk about it, but that probably was me being new. I didn't conceptualize the actual magnitude of what we were happening. And you'll see the magnitude this year is beyond where it was the last couple years. So there, you get a sense from 2021, the student numbers grew by 6% when our general population grew by just over 1. And you can get a sense each year what it's been. And then in our current year, our special ed population went up by 12%, which is huge for a district. And our general population went up about 3.5%, roughly 3.5%, maybe 4%.
Yes.
Well, that's a pretty
come on, Michael.
Right. It's been a while since I've looked at this. I'll speak to the numbers, Superintendent.
So anyways, it's more than double this year again, right? So one of the things Dave has done, and what's really cool about the experience Dave brings is he's been in it, he's been in the ballgame. So he has an understanding of what's going on, a measure, and how to take a look at. And he's taken a look at what is the growth of special ed across the state, and we mimic that. So while it's growing super fast here, everywhere it's growing faster than the general population. We are just growing faster than everybody else because many are shrinking. But that was shocking to see that our trajectory of growth in special ed is parallel and almost in the same spot as the state. When our growth of our general population, the state is flat to down a little bit, and we're like going to Mount Everest. And so it's dramatic. And so one of the reasons I wanted to show you that tonight, I felt like it was a good night to bring Dave in front of you since I had neglected to start the year, was we're also going to post for a coordinator for second semester. Dave has been doing a lot of strategic work, but having a hard time staying focused on the strategic work because there's so much day-to-day work engaged with other entities. And so bringing someone on to help him second semester that ultimately is going to help us make sure we're right-sized in special ed, or not necessarily right-sized, but in the right seats. And in order to do that, you've got to be able to spend some time with the strategy, not just the practice. And Dave has done a good job. Tabitha was asking for that for over a year before Dave came on. So this is not a new ask, but it's time, and I mean, numbers talk. And so it was hard to continue to say, well, let's pause. And so we're going to post that for second semester. Our desire is to have it be in the time we move forward, budget neutral. But budget neutral is challenging when you think of growth. So that's the strategy work. That's what Dave is trying to engage, is how do we make sure that we've actually kept up with people in the rights to do the work over the growth over the last 5 years. And so
I don't want to go too deep on this because this could possibly be a work session topic, but obviously I've heard this and kind of seen the same story at BOCES. They talk a lot about the growth. Are the increase in IEPs kind of driving this population increase more than anything else?
Yeah. So the numbers, the December count numbers, are all students with IEPs, and so there's a lot of theories as to why it's growing like that. But as Superintendent said, it matches the state.
Right.
And so while the growth looks huge, I think it's just a compounded effect with our growth, our student body growth, right, and then the growth of special education across the state. Yeah. And some people say it's because of COVID and various, there's a lot of theories as to why, but it's absolutely growing. And the staff pool out there to support all this is not growing. So that's one of the bigger.
Well, that's the conversation we have at BOCES more than anything.
Yeah. But it's hard because it's hard to know. It's hard to know how to add, right? And there's a strategy to where you add and how you add. Throwing bodies at a challenge is not the right answer, but doing the right work at a challenge can be much more effective. But you got to be thoughtful about doing that, and you got to be and that's why we have Dave. That's why we had Tabitha. But when you start to feel overwhelmed and engaged in working with the families, I've been in several meetings with Dave this year where he's problem solving with families. Well, if he's doing that all the time and he can't do the other right size work, leadership work, I would say, which is really what the position should be doing. And we had, if you go back probably President Wales during your time, we had an assistant director or a coordinator, or I can't coordinator. And then at some point it morphed and changed over time. And look where we are and the size we are compared to districts around us, it's time for us to have more than one person trying to do the strategy work. So I just wanted you to know that. That's supposed to go up, maybe went up today. And we'll be looking for that for second semester.
I have one quick question if I could. So the growth number, is that, and first of all, welcome. I haven't had a chance to actually meet yet. So, is it specific to any one level, or is it across the district? Is it elementary and high? Is it all across the district?
It's across the district and it includes preschool.
It does include preschool. Yeah. I'm wondering if it has to do with, I know our testing has gotten better, so I'm wondering if we're just identifying more students that need those services but that's philosophical discussion. Yeah. My encouragement though to you is, we're looking at, I know that's the right thing to do, but also thinking about space. If we're increasing the number by that many, I wonder if our spaces are spaces. So as we talk about future bond projects and those kinds, I wonder if we need to look at space for education too. So yeah.
I have a question. Now that we have numbers on a piece of paper, it's a hard question, but what is the ratio of leadership or like non-direct student contact, like speech therapists and those types of employment opportunities? But like at this level, what's the correct ratio? Because if Tabitha was saying a year ago that we needed more help, then it was probably even before that year that we needed help. That was the year she got overwhelmed. So where are our benchmarks to understand that number? Do we need to add people at the district level, not at like individual school help level?
I think, Director Proctor, it's a great question, and it's Dave and I engaged in like week number 3 when he was here, right? Is trying to understand. But one of the things when I think about sizing, it's really about what's in the classroom. And so you have all those other entities, right? Do we have the right number of speech therapists? Do we have the right number of school psychs? And those are things that have come up with our staff, right? Even in negotiations, there's a question, do we have 2 school psychs or enough school psychs? And that's work that I think we need to do. Dave has a lot of expertise or experience with ratios in the districts he's been in. And I think that's the work I'd like him to be able to engage in so we can answer that question directly. Because I can't tell you today that we have the right number of any of those people for the numbers we have.
Is there, so I'm going to draw on some back experience. So like for HR and salary and compensation, there's all these entities that put out surveys on like how many people you have, leadership, average pay, blah, blah, blah. So you get really comprehensive benchmarking numbers. Is there nothing in the whole nation on school districts of benchmarking ratios that we can't utilize those resources?
There is some work that's been done, and there's some talk about even using ratio calculators. The challenge you have in special education is that it's not a body, because every student in special education's needs are different. So when you look at IEP, it might be they come with, they need 20 hours of support, another one needs 10, another one needs 4. So it's complicated, and when I got here, there was some energy around, well, let's do a calculator. One of the challenges you have with the calculator, Dave and I have talked about this since he got here, to his perception. If you go to the calculator, the person that's doing the work to figure the calculator out is the overworked special teacher, because they're the only ones that know what's being asked of them. So that is the work. What you're talking about, when I think about right sizing, are we too big, are we too small? And ultimately, if we have the right number of people, do we have them in the right seats? That's the strategy work that we've got to have somebody that can do. And that's really what I'm looking forward to Dave being, so we can come back in a work session and talk about what does it look like and what are some of the moves we think we need to make sure we have the supports for students in the right places doing the right work.
Yeah, and I think another reason I'm kind of pulling on this a little bit is because I want this district to be the preferred employer, not just in special education, but across the board. And if the number of people in this field are not growing, we just have the limited pool. We have to do what we can to attract. And people aren't attracted by dollars. People are attracted by other factors. And I'm assuming caseload, or however you call it, may be a factor. And that's why I'm really curious about that, because I make sure that as an employer, we're attractive to get the people that we need in the right seats, because we could have a bus that's all empty. I don't want an empty bus.
You want to answer? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's great to hear. I couldn't agree more. I think, money is one factor, but when it's special education, there's all sorts of other factors: the team, the support, your caseload size. And right now, I'd say we're in a pretty good spot as a district. I think there's room to grow. But we have done some preliminary work on just comparing us to surrounding districts and looking at ratios and some numbers and things like that. And it is something that we really need to be on top of because, as you said, and I feel this every day, the ability to hire high quality special education is getting harder and harder every year. So I've been in special ed my entire career in education, and it was a different ballgame 10 years ago. You could put up a posting and get multiple people. You can put a posting now and potentially get 0 applicants for, it wasn't in this district, but in another district, years. You didn't get 1 applicant for a needed position. And so, yeah, the ability to attract people is so important and retain.
Right.
So.
And I don't want to take us too far down this road, but money is I think a key piece of this. Because I do know, like at BOCES, we talk a lot, especially about psychologists. Right now, BOCES budget allowed for, well, this was last year, they were allowing for about $60 an hour. But in the private sector, those jobs are starting at like $120 an hour. And a differential like that, money kind of becomes that big thing.
Where are we planning on getting this in work session?
Yeah, we would love to be able to talk strategy with the board in a work session. I think that would be fantastic.
I would like to hear about how you feel about, like you were saying, how many site people we have, how many parents you have, just all the things and how you feel about the numbers we have. I know you said we're in a good place, but it wasn't, we're in a great place. So, yeah, I think it'd be great for a work session.
Yeah.
I suspect if we ask Dave, he feels more equipped to do that getting the second semester than he would have first semester as he's on board. But I also think giving him the flexibility to dig in on that and actually really understand and find out what everyone's doing. It's time intensive, and you got to know people to do it. Otherwise, people feel like maybe you're being judged or whatever it is. So I think Dave and the way he's built some trust in the district already allows for the strategic work to happen a little more effectively now. And yes, we'll plan on a work session maybe around spring break, sometime early before spring break, which would give Dave a couple of months.
I don't expect you to have, sorry, I know I'm trying to move on. But I don't expect you to have an answer to this, and I don't even know if you would be able to collect data on this. But do you, maybe some food for thought for actually, like talk about this in the work session, but would you be able to get a ratio of the special ed students who are high functioning versus those who are low functioning? I don't even know if that's something you can officially like put on it. That's just the wording I heard thrown around in my brother's IEP meetings. Is high functioning versus low functioning, because I definitely feel like, at least at the high school level, that's a contributing factor in that classroom as far as like employees and like their workload. So would that be something?
Well, yes, no, like, so if we're kind of talking about low functioning as like our center-based programs where, we have significant support programs for students that are typically, we do, I guess, categorize them as low functioning. But it's hard to, I guess, to get hard numbers on that because it's sort of based on who we give cognitive assessments to, and we don't give those to everyone. So when we do assessments for IEPs, it's targeted to the concern.
Yeah.
And so we have that information for some students, but not all.
Okay. That's true.
See what happens when you put slides up, man? Look, especially ones with numbers.
Yeah, when you guys talk about the numbers.
Question start. Yeah, Dave. Yeah, it was comical because and it happened twice in the last, 10 days. He mentioned your name, just kind of in passing. You mentioned Dave, and so immediately I think of Dave Benson. Which, by the way, I'd like to have a meeting with you, Dave Benson and Scott, and I'd like to, in the entire meeting, I'd like to just use the word Dave Scott and see how many responses I get. But he mentioned Dave, and as he was telling me this story, I was like, he's not talking about Dave Benson. I was like, who are you talking about? And he's our new special ed director. I said, I don't even know who that is. And then when we were doing agenda planning meeting, he mentioned that you were going to be here, and Nate's like, who's that?
Well, I apologize to Dave in coming here, but also to all of you, because that's bad on my part, and
well, it
could have happened sooner than it did.
Yeah, no, and I think it's all good. You definitely have been digging in and doing stuff, and trust me, I'd rather have you do the stuff you're doing than be here with us. Appreciate it.
That's it for me.
Okay. Mr. Evans, looks like your guest just arrived. Do you want to take a quick break?
I just gotta grab a tissue.
Okay. We'll go to the report from the CFO's office.
Thank you, President Wales, members of the Board of Education, and Superintendent Nielsen. My first briefing tonight is just a financial statement overview. Generally, at least at this point year, I definitely don't have any concerns on the financial status. We'll go to the second slide there. We've received about 32.7% of our monthly budgeted revenue in October, so this is for October. Year to date, about 13.5% of our budgeted revenue. We, in October, expended 101% of our monthly budgeted expenditures, and year to date, 29.48% of our budgeted expenditures. Generally, overall, our individual schools are where we would expect. You'll see if you go to the next slide. You do see a couple outliers with Millikan Intermediate and our preschool program. With Millikan Intermediate School, we will need to, for the supplemental budget, which we'll talk about in January, we'll be adding additional staff, to the budget to reflect the reality of how things are. So that number will be taken care of. And then similarly with the Universal Preschool Program, we opened one half-day classroom, and we opened 2 full-day classrooms. We need to get into the budget, the startup expenditures for that. So with the supplemental budget, that will take care of the Universal Preschool Program and all. So moving on to district departments, the next slide. District departments expended 91.6% of their monthly budgets, and year to date, 31.49%. Again, right in the range where we would expect this time of year. Just a couple kind of outliers. Food Service Fund had significant budgeted expenditures in opening the Millikan Intermediate School, so buying furniture and equipment to outfit that cafeteria and dining area. And then also for Food Service and the Grants Fund, we'll begin to recognize revenue reimbursements in subsequent months. So, and then there's kind of the breakdown of our individual funds. And then looking at student count update, and I looked it up, and so we are up about 4.5% student count wise for this year over last year. So didn't have that number off of my head a couple minutes ago, but I calculated it. And then just kind of the subsequent slides just kind of show, again, kind of a recap of our building capacity on those 2 slides. And then after that, then we have individual schools, what their count comparisons are at. And so overall, from last year's October count to this year's October count, it looks like we're shaping up to a growth of 152 funded pupil counts year over year. So that concludes this report, and I can answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions? Mr. Everest. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
No, I can't even make all my flyers. I will move on to our consent agenda. Our adopted rules of parliamentary procedure provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval by a single motion. Most of the items listed under the consent agenda have gone through board review and recommendation. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Any item may be removed from consent agenda at the request of any board member. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion. We have a motion by Director Musgrave, a second by Vice President Sassano to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. We'll move on to our first item of old business, and that is the final reading of the most recent slate of policy amendments. Superintendent Nielsen, do you have anyone to add?
Just President Wales, that these have been posted since our meeting 2 meetings ago. As we talked about in general, we had one parent reach out. We met with the parent. It wasn't about policy, it was more about practice. Support for the policy is written, just about how do we continue to make sure that our schools are leveraging the policy. And so we met with her yesterday and it went well.
Any questions? I would entertain a motion. And because, well, it's not a whole bunch, but you don't have to read each comment. And that always kind of prevents people from making the motion on policy stuff because they feel like they got to read all this stuff.
I will move to approve the CASB recommended policy amendments as presented.
Second.
Motion by Vice President Sassano, a second by Director Proctor to approve the CASB recommended policy amendments as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Ms. Diagana.
Amanda Proctor,
Yes.
Pete Sassano,
Yes.
Amy Musgrave, Michael Webb.
Yes. Okay, we will move on to our first item of special business, and that is the 2025 audit presentation. Mr. Everest.
Thank you, President Wales, members of the board, Superintendent Nielsen. Tonight we have Melissa Bigler. She is the audit shareholder with Anderson and Whitney that supervises our district's audit. And I will just turn it over to her.
All right, sounds great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for having me. I brought a couple of paper things. I think you have these electronically as well, but I don't know. There's something about a bound copy that just makes my heart happy.
Sometimes.
Sorry, moving electronic. The finals were nice to get that one.
Like the bound one, yeah.
Yeah. Alright, can everybody hear me okay? Yes. Let's go ahead
ahead and talk about the audit piece first, and then we'll cover some highlights with the letter. I'm going to talk about the letter because this does include some comments related to the activity fund testing that we did at the board's request that I think will be really good to go over. But in the bound copy, let's first about the audit report. And I tried to set myself up in a way that I gave myself page numbers to keep us moving. I know this is 89 pages. We're not going to tackle all of it, but I have some highlights that I think would really be good to go over. So starting on page 1, this is our audit report. So that covers the next 3 pages. While we helped to get them in this format, and we helped to draft the financial statements and pull it all together, these are the responsibility of management and of the board. Our responsibility then is audit these financial statements and then give an opinion on them. And we do believe that these fairly present the district's financial situation as of June 30th, 2025. So that's what these first 2 pages are talking about. If you shift over to page 11, pages 11 and 12 are the statements of net position. During the year, what you guys see is more of a current measurement focus. So it's more of like the budgetary focus and all of the things that are happening over the next 12 months. This is government-wide that takes into account also those long-term things. So it takes into account like your assets, your debt, your compensated absences, your pension, your OPEB, those kinds of things. So this is the bigger, higher level piece. If you look on the left side, you can see total capital assets was $232 million as of 6/30/25. On the right-hand side, the net pension liability of just over $58 million. Some of that is offset by a deferred outflow of sources of about $13.5 million on the asset side. Overall total net position of $40.4 million. All of that you can see is specifically for your investment in capital assets and then restricted for some of those debts payments that still need to be made. Let's switch to page 17. This is a statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in funds. This is more of the current measurement list that you guys are used to seeing throughout the year. The overall total revenue across all your funds, $70.6 million. Total expenditures, just under $77 million. And there was about $6.7 million that came out that was payment to charter schools. Proceeds from leases, that was for the finance purchase that happened this last year. The total amount of the finance purchase agreement was about $2.3 million, but as 6/30/25, only $1.6 million of it had already been spent. So there was a little bit that was going to get finished up by the end of the current year that you're in. So overall, the revenue, or the expenditures over revenue in this case was about $5.4 million. And notice most of that is coming from the building fund, where really it's just spending on the funds that had been received in the prior year. So let's shift to look at a couple high-level footnotes. Page 28 has your changes in capital assets. And this is where you can see there was, from that bond issuance that happened, Rose Middle School was still considered in process as of June 30th, 2024. So this is the final amount of that getting paid during this fiscal year and then being transferred out of construction in progress into builds. In process at the end of the year was the Milliken Intermediate School. So that's the capital asset side. If we switch to page 31, that shows your debt. So overall, long-term obligations of $176 million at the beginning of the year, $172.2 million at the end of the year. Something to point out here that's also included in our management letter is you might notice that there's a big increase in compensated absences, and that's related to the implementation of GASB 101 that went into effect at June 30th, 2025. If we look at page 63, this is the higher level general fund budget actual. So it shows with the budget was right around 53 million revenue, at 52.4 million was actual. Expenditures were budgeted for just under 8 million. And the actual was about 1.4 million less than that. Another important part of the school district audit is the single audit portion of it, which starts on page 80. This gives you a list of all the federal expenditures during the year. This is the first year in a few years where there hasn't been COVID funding that's being included. This year it was just the nutrition cluster, moving back to that one as being the major program. We had a little bit of a hanger as we've been waiting for the compliance supplement to officially be issued. We have had some engagements where they had to separate the audit, the financial statement audit from the single audit. We kept it together hoping that it might be issued, and it was issued in time, so that's good that these will be able just to shoot together as one package versus broken out as two. And it's really nice that basically what had happened is they had given a draft compliance supplement for all of like programs that auditors were testing, and there weren't significant changes to that. So that really helped too, because it would have been a layer of excitement if there were big changes to what had already been tested probably by many different people. So those were the things that I was going to cover in the audit package itself. But let's take a few minutes to also talk about the letter that I handed out. The communication comes from the auditors to the board at the end of each audit to talk about if there are any specific recommendations, any forward-looking type of things, and also just talk a little bit more about the audit process. So the first page and a half or so talks about the additional activity fund testing that we did. And there were different avenues to go about this. Like we could have done like an agreement on procedure engagement, which would have had like a separate engagement letter, separate rep letter, that sort of thing. This maybe keeps it a little bit more informal, keeping it as a part of the audit process, but I think it maybe achieves the goals that hopefully you guys were looking for. So we can talk about that a little bit. The first paragraph here explains the scope of what we did. So our testing included one revenue selection from the 25 largest activity funds, and then one selection from each activity fund that had expenditure activity during the year, which ended up being 213 selections. So overall, 25 revenue and 213 expenditure selections. And then it goes on to talk about what we did with each of those selections. Revenue, we were looking at the receipt supporting documentation for agreement between the activity for the supporting documentation and what we were seeing in the accounting records. And then we inspected the bank deposit, making sure that that particular revenue that was selected was part of that deposit, and then tracing that into the bank statement. So then for expenditures, we also inspected the supporting documentation noting agreement of the activity fund it was paid out of, and making sure that aligned with what we were seeing in the accounting records. And then also inspection of screenshots that were documenting the approval process, since it goes through your accounting software, the approval process does. And then inspection of the cancel check agreement of the vendor indicated in the accounting records and its alignment with supporting documentation. That's when it is an actual canceled check. When it wasn't a canceled check, I put for commercial card payments, the bank statement inspected for clearing for the commercial card balance. So the full amount was paid. So when we tested it, we looked at credit card, commercial card statement, and then made sure that that was clearing. The testing went really, really well. I I don't want to say that, well, I was surprised. Because activity funds is one of those things that's really, really important. And when it was separately included outside of the financial statements before it got pulled into being with the government-wide stuff, that was a pretty big deal. You know, changing from their responsibilities to realize like there's a lot of money that's coming in and there's a lot of money that's going out, and making sure that if there were to be questions at some point, feel like you have your ducks in a row. I think it went really, really well. I expected that there would be some that would be difficult to locate, some that maybe hadn't been approved or maybe partially approved, that sort of thing, but it went well. So what I did do though, because I always have ideas of how to make things better, and I think Michael like, oh good Lord, you said it went well. But I talked a little bit about it at the top, a couple paragraphs at the top of the second period, just about processes. There was one instance where we noted sales tax was paid, which, I mean, out of 230, that's pretty good. So then in the middle there, I talked about maybe some recommendations of things to think about, given the volume of revenue that's coming in and the expenses that are being paid. I would recommend maybe more formalizing the periodic reporting distributions that are in to the schools, to like the school secretary and the principal, but also to the people that are helping to manage the funds. You know, that there's more like this happens every, August as school's getting going, and then it happens every 2 months after that or something, just to be a little bit more formal of a process. And maybe even take it to a point saying like the school secretary or somebody has to review it, approve it. More somebody that would understand. Like it's more of not necessarily just getting somebody to put initials on it, but somebody that knows the funds that are coming in and out and what they would expect those balances to be. Something to think about there. The high school has the authority to create journal entries, and other schools send journal entries to the district finance post. When journal entries are being posted between activity funds, I think it would be really cool to expand the descriptions that are being provided and why they're going from one fund to another fund, just to give more clarity if anybody were to have questions at some point, like what is this related to? The district processes transactions based on information received from individual schools. If there happen to be errors in those calculations, what we were looking at was what the finance team was to do, is that agreeing with what we have here? If So we needed to look into why did that happen? What were the specific reasons for the fail? And then have some additional discussions with John Cutler as well as the Civica group to determine what next procedure should be.
That's not in our report.
So that's not in your report. What happens is in this case, the component unit that we refer to as a part of the audit process. So in our report in the front, it's still the same wording as it has been in the past, where we say there is this other component that we have not audited, they've been audited by other CPAs. And then that's this letter also communicates here.
So what was their peer review fail?
So their peer review failed for a couple different reasons. One that maybe seemed a little bit more concerning would have been related to independence. It's possible that independence could have been maybe, not necessarily exact independence, more like maybe not enough documentation surrounding non-attest. The problem with a fail related to independence, if our additional inquiries would have indicated that they weren't independent from Civica, then we couldn't even include the audit as of this package. So we had additional communications with John Cutler and then also with Aaron Gunther with Civica and the principal over there to understand and make sure that we understood what their non-attest services were and if there was any potential independence issue with them.
Okay, thank you.
One of the other things that was included just was related to financial statement presentation and footnote type of things all being in line with CASB.
Does KQ their audit the same way, or are they part of the district's audit?
So KQA, it might be easier to just show real quick. If we go to page
Anderson does theirs.
If we go to page 11 and 12 in the bound copy, so the main column says primary government. This is for the school district. And then there's two component unit columns, one for Knowledge Quest Academy and one for Civica. And we do the audit of the Knowledge Quest Academy.
Oh, okay.
So we incorporate those financials in here.
If I remember correctly, one of the reasons is because KQA still contracts with some financial services with the district. And so it makes to have the same auditor because they're already testing internal controls on the financial side here for the district. All right, so I'll ask the question that every board has always asked me in my entire life. Are you confident in the job with Michael Everest?
Well,
it's like that. I'm trying to think of how to word it because professional skepticism made me to stand back and say, like, I can't just expect that he's going to do things 100% correctly, right? Like, it's more like I appreciate very much his responsiveness to questions. I appreciate very much his directness in handling those questions. And during the audit process, he has 4 or 5 people coming at him at different times. It's a lot coming in hot, and he handles it with grace and very kindly, and we move through the process. So we definitely really appreciate Michael and his team.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
It's like a bad first date, like, I love you. Well.
I mean, that's I don't know. I would imagine if I was on the board and they were like, no, he's awesome, we don't have to worry about anything, I'd be like, technically.
So in your letter, I didn't see any adjusting journal entry that maybe you guys had presented or any other potential internal control items, like there were no material weaknesses, I'm assuming.
No,
okay.
There were no material weaknesses or recommendations specific to just other things that popped as a part of the audit. There were some adjusting journal entries that were more client adjusting journal entries as we were going through the audit process. Some that didn't come to light until we did our procedures type of thing.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable to have client adjusting journal entries or requests. Be something big like Michael forgot to book depreciation all year or something. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Not a question for the auditor, just for the staff. I'm glad to hear the student activities fund is as it should be. That's what we wanted to hear. I do think we need to have a conversation just amongst us about what we're charging for student activities in general, just to make sure it's equitable across the board. We're not preventing kids from participating in an active sport because of some of the costs associated. So that's a discussion we need to have at another time. But I'm glad to hear the activities fund is where we hoped it would be.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, which is where I expected it to be. I think it's just good to do our fiduciary duty and
absolutely.
have some else double check it as well.
Yep.
I don't expect to do it next year. Just to like put that out there.
We've got some other ideas.
It will just be something else, just not this.
Well, Melissa, we really appreciate the work, and we've only had the 1 year where we didn't have it before January 1st, but that
wasn't Michael's fault, though.
I know, but that was like traumatic enough where like it's so appreciative to have this done when it's supposed to be done. So thank you for all the hard work that your team did.
Yes, absolutely, and we're excited to have it done for Christmas too. It's almost like a little Christmas gift. I mean, you guys, I know you probably feel that way, but it is. Thank you. We appreciate that.
I do want to just say thank you, Michael, but also thank you to your team. So make sure you extend to them. I know they grind. When those questions come in, you got a team that's working hard, and you got a great team up there. So I'll make sure to share that with them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not just me fielding Melissa and her team's requests.
Yeah, one of the keys to a good audit starts on day 1 of the fiscal year. That's when you know you're going to have a good audit. So good audits are 365 days of good work that results in a good audit. It's not just what happens at the year end.
Yeah, you don't start just pulling it together.
That has never happened before, that somebody could pull it together at the last minute and have a good audit. It starts on day 1 of the year.
Now I always have to look to our junior accountant, Hayden. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns?
I have all the questions, but I want to keep everyone here.
Well, you could come back. We could just sit down and talk about it. No, seriously, I think one of the things we need so much is more people joining public accounting. So
To be CPAs, to actually be the CPA.
Yes, we need you.
We need the 3 letters.
Yes, we do. But somebody that would be interested in it that would want to come meet with us, that would be awesome. Or even if you had other friends that wanted to join as well.
They'll probably buy you a Starbucks too.
I could not do that job. And Michael can answer this too, but obviously our budget is in a positive state and it's net new. There are obviously some high risks as far as the fragility of it. I also might not be using that word there, I don't know. What parts of the budget do you think are at the most risk right now? Seeing foreseeable issues that come up. Like one of the things I could see coming up is all these new schools we have HVAC system below. What part of the budget do you think is most at risk there?
Well, from an audit perspective, we're working with actual numbers of this is actually what happened, and this is the budget that was originally accepted or final approved if there were any amendments. But I would say that from the district perspective, it's helpful that there are those electives during the year, like you go through a budget planning process to adopt an initial budget, and then you have a point where generally most grants will do an amended budget, and then they could do another amended budget later. But sometimes during that planning process, there is like this appropriated reserves or other potential way where you're like, I'm not sure what this is, but there's going to be something. Like, this year, maybe it's an HVAC, next year, it's like we need 3 buses that we didn't plan for, on super cold mornings when it's icy. So I think that's maybe a way that people try to account for some of those things. But you guys had it as well.
I think it's to mention that auditors don't usually do financial analysis. To answer your question fully, they don't do financial analysis. They're really just making sure the numbers are approved and in the right spot.
Right.
They're running maybe some high level ratios, but that's more on the testing end than necessarily on an analyst end.
Well, and not from a way that we would suggest that you budget things maybe differently, other than to ask why was something so far off of budget, but there our concern would more be like something not recorded right, which could be a potential audit risk. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I'm sure there's a handful of people in this room that would like us to take action on this item tonight. I got all I could do.
It's December and this is happening.
And the third.
I know.
I'll motion to approve the district's annual audit as presented.
I have a motion by Director Proctor, a second by Director Musgrave to approve the district's annual audit as presented. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, Ms. Diagana.
Amanda Proctor?
Yes.
Nate Sano?
Yes.
Amy Musgrave? Michael Witt?
Yes. Well, thanks again for coming out this evening and walking us through this. We'll move on to our next item of special business, and that is the minimum wage updates. Mr. Everest.
Thank you again, President Wales, members of the Board of Education, and Superintendent Nielsen. My next presentation concerns the increase in the Colorado minimum wage that'll become effective statewide on January 1st. Looking at the second page there. Currently, the minimum wage is $14.81 an hour. The January 1st minimum wage will increase $15.16 an hour. These don't affect very many positions within the district. Most of our other positions are, they start a couple dollars higher than this. These are basically kind of temporary workers, substitute workers, and our student workers are on the minimum wage pay scale. I am also requesting that we make the change for December 12th, and the reason for that is that's the start of the pay period that encompasses January 1st, where the minimum wage increases. So just to kind of make it simpler for payroll to implement this change. And if we look at the final slide, district administration is requesting board approval for revised classified salary schedule and revised substitute pay rate schedule to reflect the Colorado minimum wage increase of $15.16 an hour. This concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions the board may have.
No questions?
Well, one. I don't have a problem doing this every year when they increase the minimum wage, but I'm wondering if we can change our salary schedule so that the first line or wherever it needs to be just says state minimum wage. And then every other cell is indexed to that based on.
There really isn't a relationship between minimum wage and kind of the next lowest rung on the classified salary schedule. Those are really independent of one another. So I don't necessarily know if we would need, that type of linkage. But I mean, if the board would like, we can definitely just put minimum wage in for these different positions.
To play devil's advocate for my own question, maybe there is some value in reviewing me when it does come up. But it just seems like it would be something simple for you, for us to just say, when the state changes the minimum wage, because they're going to, the state's going to change minimum wage every year based just if nothing else on inflation. If there's some way to make it easier on everybody.
Okay. I would definitely be on board.
Well, does the state release the minimum wages while we're in our budgetary process? So would you foresee that? Or like this one increased 2.3% or whatever. But we just increase it by 3% each year and then we don't have to do that, I guess, unless the state did 4%, but I can't imagine they would do 4%.
I'll leave that up to smarter people. I'm just trying to make your job a little bit easier.
If we could roll it into the regular salary schedules, it would probably make more sense somehow.
Yeah. And like I said, maybe it's worth reviewing every year, and that's okay. But it was just a question. I brought it up to you, and hadn't brought it up to you yet. So here we are.
One of the things, Director Sasano, that we talked about as a group after the question you asked was, when does it impact this if we don't connect the dots? Right, and if the state were to say, we're going to make a minimum wage that is $20 an hour, which does not look like it's cards, but who knows? That would impact where we are, right? Right now, we're disconnected enough that it is an easy, we come forward, we talk about raising it by 2.3%, and we leave our proposed alone and we go through it during the negotiation process. But if we came forward and said we've got to change our minimum wage to $20, it would impact everybody, this whole salary schedule, which if we were to move to where you are, that would not be the case anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the conversation we've had, and we felt like for this year, doing what we're doing tonight, bringing just the one mass for the minimum wage events, and we certainly could look at how do we connect the dots, what would that look like?
I tried. Sorry.
I think we should be looking at it. I think anytime we have an increase, we should look at it, just because just put eyes on it. I mean, we're not doing a lot of time on it. This one's pretty simple, but yeah, it could be complicated next year. Our state is bananas. I mean, you never know. Bananas.
How many kids learn how to spell bananas?
Personal opinion, but so, Mr. Wallace, it's bananas. So, you never know what they're gonna do there, you know?
Fair enough.
Okay, well,
There we go.
bananas or not, we need a motion.
I'll move to the revised 24-25 classified salary schedule as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice President Sasano, a second by Director Proctor to approve the revised 2024-25 classified salary schedule as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Diagana?
Commander Proctor?
Yes.
Nate Sassano?
Yes.
Amy Musgrave?
Yes.
Michael Whale?
Yes. Our next item is the mill levy certification to the Weld County Board of Commissioners. Mr. Everest.
Thank you again, President Wales, and also to the Larimer County.
That's interesting because I was reading the agenda item. I was thinking, wait a minute, and then I do see that we also have the Larimer one in there.
It's not just Weld. So on the first slide here, this is just kind of a summary of kind of the activity that's happened with our assessed valuation. The top number for Weld County, they're the $1,203,000,000. That was our assessed valuation for tax year 2025, which we're just exiting now. We did have a preliminary valuation from Weld County of $1,276,000,000 in August. That went down, or I'm sorry, no, that went up this year to $1,278,000,000, which was a 0.13% increase from the preliminary in August to the final in November. And it's a 6.26% increase over the prior year's assessed valuation. For Larimer County, we're dealing with much numbers. Assessed valuation for the prior tax was $575,000. Both the preliminary and the final valuations were $1.8 million. Which is over a 200% increase year over year. The reason for that, there's just more development in our tiny little sliver of Larimer County. If we go to the second slide, or I'm sorry, the next slide, this just kind of shows, so with, this is just Weld County. I didn't include anything from Larimer County, again, because the numbers are small. They really wouldn't make an impact, on the final numbers. But with the county assessor, breaks down different types of property that are assessed by those broad categories on the left there of the table. The first column is our assessed valuation for the prior year for 2024, and then the middle column is what it's been updated to in for the current tax that we're getting ready to move into. And then the final column on the right is just the changes between the prior two columns. So, as you can see, if you look on the right at the bottom, our actual value changed, almost $1 billion, $965 million, and our assessed valuation went up over $75 million. It's kind of interesting to see that, our oil and gas, it went down. It didn't go down nearly as much as I was anticipating. But what really increased for us was, both the actual and then the assessed valuation for the district's residential property. That really, increased year over year for us. So if we look at the next slide, this is a summary of what I'm asking the board to approve tonight for the district's mill levies. We'll have the total program mill levy, that's our general fund mill levy of 23.414 mils. Our mill levy overrides, 3.515 mils. Abatements, 0.03 of a mil. And then the mills general obligation bonds, 9.312 mils, for a total of 36.271 mils. And then the prior year, the district's mill levy was 36.079 mils, so that is an increase of 0.192 mils for the upcoming tax year. Moving on to the next slide. This is just kind of a summary, and this is based off of $100,000 of market value, and this table looks at residential property and also commercial property. So you can just kind of see year over year what what the shift is. The residential's going up a little bit, commercial's going down a little bit, and that's really just kind of the assessment rate. So kind of that second row there. Those are kind of the assessment rates are kind of in flux right now. It used to be that they were the same every year after year, and I actually knew what they were because they were the same every year. Now they're not. So they shift up or shift down a little bit depending on what the state legislature does. So that's really kind of the predominant reason for the shift in the values from year over year. And if we look at the final slide, district administration is requesting board approval of property tax mill levy resolution included in this presentation. This concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions the board may have.
So it's been a minute, and my brain is foggy on it. But if I remember correctly, the last 2 years that there was a change in the exemption of assessed value, and then this is the year that it went away. So that's why property the assessment rate is higher anyways on property.
Yeah, I mean there's the state legislature over the past years has done, and I can't remember exactly what has happened, but they have changed the assessed rate of property, and then they also, as Director Proctor mentioned, they've also given exemptions, so carve out of a certain amount of value that isn't taxed, and that comes in, and then that goes out, and so it's kind of in flux right now.
And I have a second question related to the breakout of the mill levy between programming, override, and general obligation. So the total mill levy increased 0.192 mils. Which piece of those four components increased? Because I'll get asked. It'll probably be my husband, but I'll get asked which one of those four things were the increase of it, which one it was.
So as you might remember, so at this point several years ago, the state legislature, they passed a new law. When I first started, I believe our total program mill levy was, I want to either 18 or 19.414. So the state changed the law. Basically, and there are some exemptions because everyone does things different, or everyone lives under different circumstances. But generally, districts are going to 27 mills for their total program mill levy. And so each year, we're increasing our mills by 1 for the total program. So that really, really just kind of with that, you would expect to see our mill levy increase, because everything else is pretty stable. The mill levy the dollar amount for the mill levy overrides is, it's fixed. So that's exactly the same every year, the dollar value. Our general obligation bond payment schedule is very, it doesn't change very much year over year. So that's very stable as well. So the reason why it's just a 0.192 mils as opposed to 1 is just the increase in assessed valuation that we got.
Okay.
So that kind of, if our assessed valuation would be exactly the same from one year to the next, then that would be much closer to 1 mil at the bottom than it is.
Thank you.
A couple years ago, I tried to get into that. We were lowering everything else, and I tried to get you to increase like 2 or 3, so we didn't have such a big hit. You wouldn't let me do it.
Michael.
Because we have to get to 27 for our total program, right?
Yes, and then when we get to 27, then we're done.
Right. Because we'll be higher.
Any other questions? Again, I'm sure there's some people here who would love to have this one wrapped up too before the end of the year.
Well, we really need to
Actually,
have
by the 15th, right?
If you're going to approve one thing, this is the thing to approve tonight.
I'll motion to approve the property tax mill levy resolution for the 2026 collection percent.
Sorry.
We have a motion by Director Proctor, second by Vice President Sassano to approve the property tax mill levy resolution. That was weird. For the 26 collection year, as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Diagon?
Amanda Proctor?
Yes.
Nate Sassano?
Yes.
Amy Musgrave?
Yes.
Michael Witt?
Yes. So did you know if you swipe left or right in Borax on the window, it jumps up and down on agenda item? That's why I was like, in the middle of reading that, and as I was trying to pull it down and I slid it, it jumped off. I was like, what is that? I'm all freaked out to touch it. All right. Our item of business is the adoption of the calendars for the 25-26 and 26-27 school years.
President Wales, Board of Directors, we're excited about the work the calendar committee has done this year. I think it's been an ask of board members for longer than we've done calendars probably, to think about a 2-year calendar. And with us tonight is Karen Weiser to talk about process, but also share with you the ask of approving 2 years of calendar for our district, which helps our staff and our parents plan.
Wonderful. Thank you, Superintendent Nielsen, and good evening, President Weld and members of the board. As Scott mentioned, or Mr. Superintendent Nielsen mentioned, we did work on a 2-year calendar, so I'm here on behalf of our calendar committee. I did notice it did say 25-26. We're in the current 25-26 year. So this is actually for 26, 27, 27, 28, which does feel like far away when plugging in all the numbers and everything when we were doing that work. But this is the work of the committee with various representatives. We took a look and received initial feedback just of our current calendar, and then narrowed the calendar for the next 2 years with various input. There was actually very little input in terms of things that we're seeing are or are not working for our academic calendar, knowing that our ultimate outcome is having our students having the best calendar to ensure learning throughout the year. So in this calendar, the 2 calendars are essentially identical, year 1 and year 2. As a committee and facilitating and being on this committee myself for many, many years, we've always wondered, we've typically done it January, February, which feels late. So there's been an ask, can we do it sooner for our families and for our community members? And then also, as many other districts surrounding do, how can we look at a 2-year calendar so that there's consistency in that scheduling? So that's what we're presenting to you today. There are 2 versions, as you'll notice. There's a more traditional color-coded version with days off. This is our student calendar, so we identify when they on or off school, various groups of students, PK-12, PK-5, just preschool. This current calendar, we did, the current year we're in, not on your screen, we did this year pull kindergarten or pre-K off and had a separate preschool calendar feedback. Let's put it back on our community calendar for all. So they are back on our calendar. So there's the 2 years, and then there's a second file or document for each of them, a list form to ensure accessibility. So that's there as well. That's what I have for you. Any questions?
Go ahead. I have none.
Well, just again, thank you. I know this is something that people have been asking for a long time, so to have that assurity, I guess, that you know what the calendar is going to be. You can plan vacations, you can plan, our lives around these calendars. It's helpful. One thing I want to make sure of is when we were talking to Tammy and Scott some more, I'm sure you already know, but we need to keep the cycle. So we always have 2 years out. So I think the plan was worry about it for 2 years. and so we just want to make sure we keep that next year always looking 2 years out.
Yep, and so then the work will be really just 1 year beyond that, so that we don't get too far ahead depending on changes. One thing we predicted in these calendars were our state assessment dates, to try and avoid those. And we can only predict so much on historical, dates and practices and things like that. We don't want to get too far ahead, but with this, when we resume next year, probably not this early, but maybe closer to spring, once the year, we'll be able to maintain that 2-year cycle. And there's lots of things impacting that 2-year cycle, so that also helps transportation planning. Athletics and activities is interestingly on a 2-year CHASA calendar. And so it really helps with so many components that until we are all together as a committee, we don't necessarily realize goes into the calendar each time. A celebration, which I didn't mention, just it has to do with really the work of the calendar committee, unfortunately, but the way Memorial Day falls and that this next 2 year, we could start later. It doesn't make the year any shorter or anything like that, but our holidays and everything will change that. So it'll be important to keep an eye on that. So.
I was thinking about while you were talking actually is sometimes our negotiations with the union and the teachers drives the calendar. So these probably aren't 100% set in stone because something could come up in negotiations that changes. That's why we have the half days for elementary students, right? To help elementary students or teachers have that time. So is there a process for changing the calendar, should we need to?
Well, I think what I have seen more often is the reverse, is that you're talking about in negotiations, the calendar isn't ready, and so it's hard to negotiate around the calendar. So having the calendar set helps us think through that, and to be able, and I think that's work that calendar committee really wrestled with, right, is if we go 2 years out, how set in stone can it be? If it turns out there's a big issue we have to tackle, then we may have to reopen it with the board. But right now, what we're asking for the board to do is say, this is what people can plan for the next 2 years. And then when we're in negotiations, we know what that looks like as well.
Ms. Weiser, thank you. This is awesome. I'll just echo what everybody else has said about having this 2 years in advance. And I love the list view. I've always just kind of struggled with the calendar with the colors because I'm like, what's that shaded gray mean? The one recommendation I would make though on the list one is
Color coded?
yeah, no, yeah.
We can do that.
But add some descriptions on some of these on the no schools.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Like, yeah, because as I'm and this is just the way I'm reading this, I'm looking at the description side of things. And so like if I knew it was a parent-teacher conference day or a teacher work day, but also like break day. So like I'm looking through here like, oh, and I'm too stupid to look at the dates and say, oh yeah, holiday break is, I'm looking for it on the right-hand side. Well, you don't have holiday break in here, so.
So I actually have that version. It's an internal for our staff so that they know this is an in-service day. This is why you're here or not. So it's not here in this because it's internal for our staff to know, our certified staff, our 187 contract staff, to know what it is. We were honestly trying to simplify this for families rather than getting up the weeds of, which maybe from that lens of letting our community know, here's what our teachers are doing. So that's already created. It's not in this material though for that approval, but that's something I can provide.
I think that's a good communication tool.
Yep.
To have the description.
Yeah, at least on some of the stuff.
Yep.
I mean, here's the one for me is the graduation, because every year I go pull that calendar up and it's like,
And I believe graduation is.
It is, it's listed here, which is awesome. But yeah, when you go to the calendar, it's like you get to the end of May and every color is on there. And so which one am I looking for? And so, good job.
So yeah, I can do that. And I don't know, just from a logistical standpoint, the calendar is what I'm asking for approval. If I update this, does that need to come back? How does that need to, okay.
Nope.
I'll send it via Superintendent Nielsen and to Jessica and have that get to you, so.
I'm really excited.
I got all crazy.
Calendar's got you excited and
I
it's for your
know.
pen.
We should all be excited.
I'm excited. I have to request time 6 months in advance, so this is great.
Now you can do it 2 years in advance.
They actually don't let me.
I know. It's a bit early, but
I
you can
just
plan.
requested off for graduation, so if I get it to share my kids graduating, so I will not be.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you again for all the hard work. Please pass that on to the committee as well. Directors, what is?
I'll motion to approve the calendars as presented.
I have a motion by Director Proctor, a second by Director Musgrave to approve the calendars as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Ms. Diagon.
Commander Proctor?
Yes.
James Fasano?
Yes.
Amy Musgrave? Yes. Michael Will?
Yes. Our final item of special business is the cooling tower replacement at Pioneer Ridge. Superintendent Nielsen.
Board members, we have, as I think Josh would say, an imminent need to do some work with our cooling tower. And as many things are these days, emergent work has a lead time, long time. And so, Mr. Everest is going to talk us through what we've done and what we would propose tonight to move this project forward. So I'll turn it over, Michael, to you.
Thank you again, Superintendent Nielsen, President Weld, moving forward. So in the since these were quotes, proprietary quotes, they're in the administrative section of the board packet, so they're not publicly available. So we, Mr. Roseberry approached kind of the two leading contenders for the bidding process that we had with the Roosevelt Middle School, the TU units, American Air and MTech, to give us quotes on replacing the water tower at Pioneer Ridge. And both of those quotes are included in your kit. District administration is recommending that we go with the MTech proposal. They are slightly less expensive, and with district administration feels that with just kind of the overall experience level that MTech has with this type of a project, that it would definitely be good to go with them for this particular project.
I think it's also important to add that I think Mr. Roseberry heard early on, right, that has the concern that if we don't take action on it, we actually create other issues or potential other issues at Pioneer Ridge. And there's a lead time on these cooling towers of 16 weeks. And so if we went with a longer process, we likely would have added a month to his ability to get quotes. And he brought forward the idea to go with the two companies that were leading in the last bidding process we went through, but with the option for them both to give us a quote on what we need and get that ball rolling, because 16 weeks from now it puts us in when the cooling tower is going to be necessary, or likely, I should say for sure. In Colorado, who knows? But so that's the reason for the approach he brought forward, is feeling like time is of the essence.
Any other questions?
So normally we would put this out for bid, but because it's more emergent need, are we following, I didn't read to make sure we're all in policy on this one? Okay.
You want to talk through?
Yeah, so our policy does, Director Musgrave, we do have, in a typical situation, something's over $100,000, goes, submit a, formal bidding process, we get bids in, we go through that process. There are exceptions to that in our board policy. Really, the exception that we're kind of looking at for this one is, something that is, more, as Superintendent Nielsen said, more of an emergency situation. So with this, if we, this is, the leaky water tower is causing problems at Pioneer Ridge right now, and the fact that the water tower cools the heat loop in the building, that isn't happening very well right now, and it's kind of an up and down situation. So that knocks off, the myriad of what are those called?
Heat pumps.
Heat pumps, yeah, that are in the building. So, which then necessitates us, calling someone out to get those back online. So, definitely felt that this, qualified for something that would qualify under kind of an emergent situation for the process. And we, and as Superintendent Nielsen said, we did get 2 quotes from 2 different vendors on how to solve this problem.
And so on the MTech, you guys want to go with 150 or with all the options?
So we are recommending all of the options for it, and the reason for it, I mean, there's different reasons for each one, but that's basically will give us the most solid package that will last the longest. One of the options. So the stainless steel liner, the problem that we're running into right now is that the existing tower is corroded and it's leaking. So this will give us more of a no longer lifespan for this piece of equipment at PRE. The low sound fan, as the board may be aware, there's some noise complaints from certain neighbors of PRE. This will reduce the amount of noise that this piece of equipment will generate. And then the final one, the control panel. This is basically, I can't remember what VFD stands for, but it's basically
Variable frequency drive.
Thank you. Basically it's when the mechanics of the water tower start up, it starts them up at a more gentle gentle rate, and when it needs to stop, it stops it at a more gentle slope as opposed to all on and then all off, which will help the equipment last longer.
Prevents water hammer through those heat pumps.
I'm sorry?
If it's water hammer in those heat pumps.
Okay. I will take your word for it.
So it's 2 things then, because MTech's, if you add all those options in, MTech's bid is cheaper by $500. It's not a huge difference.
It's not a huge difference.
But it's also about the experience they have, particularly in that building, because they installed the last system, or not system, but components we added to that system, right?
Unfortunately, MTech has a lot of familiarity with the Pioneer.
Right. So it's a little bit cheaper. They have experience with the building. That's why Josh is recommending.
Okay, any other questions? And we can take action on this evening. Entertain a motion.
Are you looking for us to make the decision between American and MTech? Because there's no memo sitting from staff what the preference would be. Are you looking for a dollar amount, us to approve a dollar amount, or staff to make the decision? What are you looking for here?
Go ahead.
I guess what I would be looking for is just, the board's approval that, yes, we're going to move ahead, with this project, with MTech performing the work.
I think policy-wise, given that emergent thing, 2 things. Josh didn't necessarily need to get quotes. We asked him to. And we wanted to be transparent with the board about what we're doing. So that there was a question on the backside that we were going against policy, or we wanted to be transparent on the front side about what Josh is attempting to do, which is to get this thing rolling. I think Josh would like to do it as soon as he got the quotes, and we said, no, we want to go to the board and make sure that you're comfortable with the direction. I think the board could say, we'd like you to do an RFP. And that would be, moving and saying you perceive it as emergent, which I think staff feels like it is, so.
Definitely.
So I don't know, your question is a good one, Amanda. There isn't necessarily a proof when we're using the policy the way we're using it. It's more of a transparency piece and feeling like you feel like we're on the up and up and doing that.
I would say that the motion should reflect the board being in agreement with the recommendation that's coming from staff. So that would be cost and provider.
I really want to say so moved right now, but I'm not going to. I want to make a motion that we approve recommendation from staff to go with MTech for the replacement of the PRA water tower.
The amount of,
Does it need to, if it needs to be a specific amount, in the amount of $211,061.
I'll second. So there's a motion from Vice President Sassano, a second by myself, to approve the staff's recommendation for the replacement of the cooling towers at Pioneer Ridge. Any discussion on the motion?
I would like us, before things become emergent, to take care of things with this. How long have we known this is a problem? I mean, if the board.
Long enough to get 2 quotes. I mean, we haven't, I mean, Josh brought it to us 3 weeks ago, and we asked for 2 quotes rather than moving forward at the time. So it's not like we waited on this one to make it emergent.
No, I don't mean we waited on it purposely. I just mean, like, were there signs we were having problems with this equipment? Like, you know, like.
I chuckle because, of course,
there were signs. Yeah, there were signs. So I'd like us to be more on top of these type of things. I know we need to get this done. This is great work that Josh did, but I mean, there were definitely signs. So let's get on these things sooner rather than later.
The sign, though, was the building is 20 years old.
Yeah.
25 years old.
We should be looking.
So you're right,
yeah,
we should.
Things fall
We
apart.
absolutely should.
Yeah.
But some of these things you can't predict. And
No.
I think this are the things you can't predict.
Fair enough.
So.
Okay.
I mean, they could have done a tank inspection, so I'll push back a little bit that they could have predicted it. But when the point of failure of that tank inspection is different.
We're not at the point of failure yet. We're very close. We're not there yet. So, yes, exactly.
All right.
Any further discussion? Ms. Diagono?
Ed Proctor?
Yes.
Nate Sassano?
Yes.
Amy Musgrave?
Yes.
Michael Wales?
Yes. Okay, do we have any citizen comments on any general topics?
I mean,
I
mean, a citizen.
I've lived here for 20 years.
I was just being a smart aleck.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, it is 8:30. We will adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, we gotta do that about the next meeting, December 17th. And do we want to adjourn?
I already adjourned.
I'm going home then.
Wait, we're trying to cancel a meeting. You want to hear this thing?
Oh, I do.
Do we want to motion cancel the
You didn't
17th?
say a time. So.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you say it.
So, dang it. Here's the issue, though. That's a pretty big. So the question is, we don't, and it's our work session, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a need for our work session for December 17th. And so, and I should have caught this when we approved the agenda. We should have added this as an agenda item because we have to give our meeting schedule to the state. It's kind of a big deal as far as big deals go.
I think we can still cancel the meeting. I do understand about the transparency policy and the approval of the
agenda,
the meetings and the agenda. But
because we can call back to order.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, you did, right?
But
This is another item deemed necessary by the board.
it is.
It is.
I don't think it necessarily has to be on the agenda for us to discuss it. I think if we're adding a meeting, I think it's a little bit different. I think canceling is.
Yeah, I'm trying to work through this because I know we've done this kind of in the past this way. So our issue is here because we are adjourned. We can't vote on this. But similar to like a work session, we could indicate direction to staff to specifically Ms. Diagana to adequately post that because we have no need for that meeting that we need to cancel it.
I would like to clarify that it was scheduled as a regular meeting.
It was scheduled as a regular meeting.
Because I think we were holding that for place in case we needed the mill.
Right, we always do for that mill levy certification.
I think that's okay because the state doesn't deem a difference between work sessions and regular meetings. They still have to be noticed in minutes taken either anyway.
Right.
Anytime you have the board together, it's a meeting. The semantics of whether it's special work session or regular is semantics. The law still applies whether it's whatever kind of meeting. So what I'm trying to say is just because it's regular one doesn't matter about the direction of the board.
Yeah. Any concerns with, do any board members have a concern with canceling that meeting?
As long as we give that.
Means we have no business to conduct. No, it was definitely something when we approved the agenda, I should have remembered that we needed to do this and added it to the agenda. It's something that we discuss. So yeah, I'd say we give direction to Ms. Diagana to adequately and appropriately cancel and post the cancellation of that December 17th meeting.
I thought that was the state statute book. It's not the right one.
That's the school laws book.
I know, it's not the right one.
Now we adjourn?
We have been adjourned, so.